Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for April 22nd, 2024 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Let me start off by saying that tomorrow looks like a really good day out at the Hawk Watch with southwest winds all day, so it would be a great day to come out. Stay tuned till the end of this video to see the complete forecast. Let me also remind you that this coming weekend, Friday through Sunday, is our annual Bird of Prey Days festival with presentations, live birds, and of course the Hawk Watch. I'll have a link in the description and you can check that out if you're interested. Kim and I started out the day at the Braddock Bay West Spit. We spotted a female wood duck perched up in a tree, and as I went to photograph it, the male wood duck flew in as well and gave me a nice look in that morning sunlight. Double-crested cormorants continue to migrate in good numbers. And here's a breeding plumage common loon that flew over pretty low as it migrated north. Here we have a small gray and blue bird with a white eye ring and very grumpy eyebrows, as well as a long tail with white outer tail feathers. This is a blue-gray gnatcatcher. Here we have a warbler that's overall plain, but we see some highlights of yellow in the throat and above the eye, as well as in the back here. We see a rufous cap. This is a palm warbler, and when they perch up, they usually pump their tail up and down. And because of the more plain colored sides, this is the western variety of the palm warbler compared to the yellow variety, which comes a little bit later and would be more boldly yellow underneath. Here we have a Carolina wren carrying nesting material, and it must have wandered over to the nets at 3BO at some point because it is banded. From the West Spit, we had 41 species. Next, we headed over to the Owl Woods, where we had a nice walk. In the Owl Woods, we had 21 species, including some highlights of 16 ruby-crowned kinglets, 10 golden-crowned kinglets, 3 brown creepers, 2 winter wrens, and 4 hermit thrushes. Next, I headed over to Braddock Bay Park. Here we have a European starling, and this bird has a bad reputation because it's non-native, but in that morning sunlight with that iridescent green and purple, it was really stunning. Down off the end of the boardwalk, there were a couple of marsh wrens singing. And this male red-winged blackbird was perched up nicely on a cattail. For Braddock Bay Park, I had a total of 40 species. Since the winds were out of the northeast, I moved over to Frisbee Hill Park around 9:30, which is our alternate Hawkwatch site where we move to when the wind is out of the north or northeast, since those winds tend to push the raptors away from the lakeshore and inland a little bit, so sometimes we can pick up a better flight over at Frisbee Hill. Started out fairly sunny, but with some nice big puffy cumulus clouds, and again those northeasterly winds. And then at one point in the mid-afternoon we had a really good flight, and then suddenly there was just a small change in the weather where I think the wind shifted a little bit more to the straight north and just all the clouds disappeared. And when that happened, the flight essentially shut down and we lost our high broadwings and we lost the line of turkey vultures, and it was pretty slow after that. Here we have a small raptor with pointed wings that is light underneath, so a small light-colored falcon is an American kestrel. Here we have a small buteo with somewhat pointed wingtips, brown barring underneath, and a black tail with a wide white band. This is an adult broad-winged hawk. When the migration is a bit slow, we still have the ospreys to entertain us. You can see one perched up here on the top left, and there's another one here in the top middle on the nest. This pileated woodpecker gave me a really nice look as he flew by, and the one thing I like about this photo is if you look at the wing feathers, you can see some different ages because we have some lighter colored feathers that are ones that are more faded because they've haven't been replaced yet, whereas the darker ones are ones that were replaced more recently. And again, here in the covered feathers, you see the same thing. You see the older ones that are more faded. And here's another look at that same pileated woodpecker. Here we have a hawk that's shaped like a flying cross. We see very straight wings with rounded wingtips and a long tail. We should be thinking accipiter. We see a large head, and we see teardrop streaking concentrated on the upper breast, making this a juvenile Cooper's hawk. And here we see that it's got its undertail coverts fluffed out a little bit. Sometimes they do that when they're agitated. And also notice that the tail on this looks very squared off, which we would normally think of as a sharp-shinned hawk trait. So you have to be careful sometimes because this bird has its tail completely closed, so we can't see the rounded tip that we would see if it fanned it a little bit. That rounded tip comes because the outer tail feathers are shorter than the central ones, but sometimes when the tail is closed completely tightly like this, it looks more squared off like we would see on a sharp-shinned. So we have to rely on the other field marks. We should never rely on just one field mark for identifying accipiters. We have to look at multiple things such as how lanky the bird looks, how big the head is, what does the underside streaking look like, etc. Here we have another adult broad-winged hawk in a soar, and notice that when it spreads its tail, we see not only that one white band, but we can see multiple other white bands as well. But from a distance, normally we only see that one white band. Here we have another flying cross. This is another Cooper's hawk, and we see orange barring underneath, making this one an adult. But again, notice those long, straight wings with rounded tips. We see a large head. And on this one, we can see that the tail is slightly rounded. We see the outer tail feathers are a bit shorter and the central ones are longer. So you can see this white tip to the tail makes a more rounded shape. Well, this photo isn't very good, but it's good enough. What do we see? A large dark raptor. We see that the head is much smaller than the tail, and we see a white patch in the center of each wing. This is a golden eagle, and we had 3 golden eagles today, and none of them were very good looks. And actually 2 of them were flying together, and then the third one came a little bit later. So really good to get 3 golden eagles on a day that we went into with kind of low expectations. Here we have another adult broad-winged hawk. Again, broad-winged hawks are small buteos with somewhat pointed wingtips, and we see that single wide white band to the tail. And the adults have this really bold trailing edge to the wing. In a few weeks, as we start to see more and more juveniles, we'll notice that they don't have that bold trailing edge. So they look a lot lighter. They don't have the nice outline to the wing like the adults do. But this is a really good example of what we're seeing this time of year as we have all of the adult broad-winged hawks migrating through. From Frisbee Hill, I had a total of 38 species. The hawk migration had essentially stopped at Frisbee Hill around 2 o'clock, so finally around 3 I said, okay, I'm giving up at Frisbee, but I'll stop back over at Braddock Bay Park just to see if anything else is going on before I head home. And I was glad that I checked because there were actually a decent number of turkey vultures migrating along the lake shore. Shortly after I got there was one group of about 30 vultures that went by, and then a short time later, another group of around 30, plus some scattered individuals for over 80 vultures total in the last couple hours that I spent at the platform. And we had a nice look at this bird. Here we have a large raptor that has a lot of white scattered throughout the underside, especially in the wing pit area. And we see a somewhat large head. This is a bald eagle. And to age this one, we see that the head is completely dark. It's mostly dark on the underside of the body. We see a very even trailing edge to the wing because all of the feathers are the same age. And we see some paler inner primary feathers. This is a juvenile bald eagle, and the tail looks especially white on this one, making it a really stunning bird in the sunlight. And I just did an incomplete checklist for the hawk watch there at the end, with the highlight being a great egret. Taking a look at the hawk count report for today's migrant raptor totals, today we had 197 turkey vultures, 5 bald eagles, 1 northern harrier, 8 sharp-shinned hawks, 2 Cooper's hawks, 79 broad-winged hawks, 7 red-tailed hawks, 3 golden eagles, and 1 American kestrel, for a total of 303 migrating raptors. That brings our April total to 32,741 and the season total to 40,861. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, as I said at the beginning of the video, it is a possible big day. We're looking at cloudy conditions with rain moving in later in the afternoon, a high in the mid-60s, and southwest winds at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So that's a really good wind, and the winds are supposed to stay like that all day. And there might even be a little bit of sunshine in the early morning that could help to generate some thermals. So it's looking like it could be a really good day overall. We're still in the peak of the broad-winged hawk and sharp-shinned hawk migration, as well as many other species. Just a really good variety of raptors this time of year. A lot of stuff on the move, and those southwesterly winds should bring them right up to the lake shore for us. My only concerns for the day might be that as that rain gets closer, maybe the cloud cover will thicken, and that might slow down the flight a bit. And it's also possible that if the winds aren't as strong as they had forecast, that maybe the lake breeze would kick in. Although if that happens, I think it's likely the lake breeze would kick in and then the southwest wind may overpower it again. So the flight might be on and off again if that were to happen. But overall, I'm not too concerned about those things. I think it's really shaping up to be a pretty good day. It looks like the rain's going to hold off until at least 5 p.m. So I'm looking forward to another good day out at the Hawk Watch. I know we had that really big push on last Friday that was just about one unbelievable hour. Again, we had more than 11,000 hawks between 2 and 3 p.m. on Friday. I know that there was only a small number of people on the platform because the weather had been so hit or miss that day. So hopefully this is a chance for everyone else to make it out here for a big flight and count a lot of hawks. For Wednesday, we're looking at rain and snow showers in the morning, becoming partly cloudy, high around 48, and winds north-northwest at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So there's a cold front coming through between Tuesday and Wednesday. And so with Wednesday, we're dealing with those post-cold front winds and colder temperatures. Would only expect minimal migration, not looking like a very good day. And for Thursday, mainly sunny with a high in the low to mid 40s and light northeasterly winds. So kind of a day similar to today with a lot of sunshine and a light lake breeze. We'll probably end up over at Frisbee Hill and be staring very high into the sky, hoping to spot anything at all. All right, well, today ended up better than I had expected, and tomorrow's looking like a great day. I think a lot of people are hesitant to come out to the Hawk Watch on cloudy days, but actually I think they're a lot better when we have these big broadwing flights because the birds are so much easier to spot. When you have a big broadwing flight against a blue sky, they get up really high and are really difficult to see. So don't let the cloudy skies scare you away. The winds are looking really good, and I think we'll end up with another big flight. So hope to see you out at the platform, or if I don't see you tomorrow, hopefully sometime soon, perhaps this weekend for Bird of Prey Days. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.